This morning, we have read Matthew's account of the resurrection of Jesus. Our New Testament gives us 4 accounts of this event. They agree on the essentials, that the tomb was found empty and that Christ was raised. But otherwise, they're a bit different. Matthew's is undoubtedly the most dramatic account. He alone gives us an earthquake and the rather frightening angel with an appearance like lightning, descending from heaven, rolling the stone away, and then calmly sitting on it. No wonder the guards shake with fear and become like dead men. In popular culture, the appearance of an angel is rather peaceful, a soothing event. The Hollywood version has angels giving comfort and helping you when in distress. But in the scriptures, meeting an angel is a terrifying, life-changing event that knocks the socks off you. Matthew, as we have observed before, is the most Jewish of our Gospels and addressed to a predominantly Jewish audience who were familiar with angels from their history. The Hebrew scriptures contain a number of angelic visitations, particularly at significant moments in Israel's story. The Jewish community knew what angels represented. When you met an angel, you knew that God was at work, and you should expect something out of the ordinary. So we shouldn't be at all surprised that Matthew has an angel from the Lord making a dramatic appearance on the day of resurrection. Matthew is driving home the point that the resurrection is a supernatural event. God raised Jesus from the dead. The resurrection was not a foregone conclusion. There was nothing inherently immortal about Jesus of Nazareth. Unless God raised him, there would still be a body in a tomb somewhere outside the walls of Jerusalem. We speak of Jesus rising from the dead. The gospel writers are more careful in their use of language. The angel's message to the startled women is, "He is not here, for he has been raised." None of the gospel writers attempt to describe the resurrection itself. The angel in Matthew's gospel doesn't roll back the stone to let Jesus out. He rolls back the stone so that the women can see for themselves that the tomb is empty. Resurrection is God's work alone. The women, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary, perhaps the mother of Jesus, came to see the tomb on that first Easter morning because they had seen the crucifixion, and they had also seen the place where Jesus had been hurriedly buried on the Friday night before the Sabbath curfew. The resurrection cannot be separated. In Matthew's Gospel, the resurrection is the climax of the story, begun with the young Mary conceiving a child by the Holy Spirit. It's a story about God's intervention into human history in a new way. All the gospel writers make a point of telling us that women go to the tomb early on the first day of the week. For the evangelists, time is now reconfigured. A new Sabbath is created because the resurrection of Jesus marks the beginning of the new creation. So what does resurrection mean for us today, some 2,000 years after those events recorded by Matthew and the other gospel writers? To begin to answer that question, perhaps we should start with the words addressed to the women by the angel in Matthew's gospel. "Do not be afraid. I know that you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He is not here, for he has been raised as he said. Come and see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples, he has been raised and is going ahead of you to Galilee. There you will see him. This is my message to you." First, the resurrection of Jesus makes it possible to live unafraid. We are a fearful people. The spread of the coronavirus is just the newest fear we have to deal with. We fear what the future may hold. We fear the continued fall of the stock market. We fear for our children and the world they will inherit. We fear the effects of climate disruption. We fear growing old and we fear death. Belief in the resurrection does not automatically take those fears away, nor does it encourage us to put our heads in the sand and say everything will turn out okay in the end. But it does give us a new perspective, a different place to stand. It tells us that God's new creation is real and that God's intention for new heavens and a new earth is a promise we can depend on. It also tells us that no matter what we face in the future, we know that we are not alone and that God walks with us. It also tells us that at the end we can face death without fear, knowing that it is the doorway to life in the presence of the God who has demonstrated his love for us so convincingly on the cross. Secondly, the women were given a message to share with their friends. They were to tell them that Jesus had been raised and where to find him. You and I who believe are invited to do the same. If the resurrection is the great cosmic event that we claim it to be, we should want to share it with others. Yes, we are to do that with sensitivity and humility, but we would be failing our calling as Christian disciples if we kept that message to ourselves. Matthew's angel said that Jesus would be seen in Galilee. For most of Jesus' followers, Galilee meant home. It was where they'd first met Jesus and their lives had been changed. And here in the familiar surroundings of home and work, they would meet the risen Christ again. Jesus is more often encountered in the ordinary than in the places of power and prestige and privilege. The women met Jesus on the road as they went in obedience to the angel's instruction. Jesus is alive today and still looks for those who will recognise him and follow him. And when we do that, we will hear his words saying, "Don't be afraid. Go and tell my brothers and sisters." Amen.